Hello, 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 and welcome to Lead What You Live podcast with Tina Lizzio. That's me. And I have a very, very special guest to me, someone who is dear to my heart. She is a wonderful human being, an incredible woman, a mother, and dear friend of mine, Jennifer Radnay. Jennifer Radnay is here today. She is a holistic doula, birth supporter, Birth of a Goddess. You can find her at Birth of a Goddess. And we're going to go on a journey with her today because, talking about lead what you live, I have been watching her. Jennifer and I met 8 years ago, and I have seen her coach and lead so many women through the incredible process of bringing human beings and miracles into the world, and just what an important role and impact she has on the lives of all of these women. So Jennifer, thank you. Thank you for being with me here today. Your wisdom and your experience in life, and you also, like I am, you're a mother of 3 thriving grown children. And so we have that in common, as well as many other things. You're just quite a spiritual being, and I appreciate you so much. So I'm not even sure exactly where to begin. What I'd like to start with is, so what is it, how is it, I should say, how is it that you were inspired to become a doula? And first tell the viewers exactly what it is. What is a doula, and what is a holistic doula?
Well, first I want to say thank you so much for having me. You're already making me cry. We genuinely are girlfriends, and I just adore you. And I've grown and learned so much from being able to be in your presence and learn from your wisdom. Um, Thank you. Doula is from the ancient Greek term, a woman that supports other women, and it really truly is about seeing other women. Specifically, it's known for, and what I do as a birth keeper is support women throughout their pregnancy journey, from maiden to motherhood, and all the bells and whistles that accompany that. And it's just a really big privilege that I get to step into not just women, but families' lives as they're stepping into this new stage in their lives, and really bring back the sacredness and the importance, and coach them so that they have a maternal led, empowering, profound experience. And not just, and I say families because it's not just for the mother who's pregnant, but also that we really integrate the rest of the family, the husband, the partners, and acknowledge that the mother is one with the child, and really acknowledge this
Yes.
soul and this baby's experience as well. We get so fixed on um, birth as the end goal, but it's truly just the beginning. They're stepping into this new realm. So it's really just supporting families all over, and showing up in my community as well has been a really big part and privilege of that.
Well, you have supported some big names, some powerful people and individuals, and women of all different ages,
Hmm.
young, very young mothers, all the way to women over 40, whether it's their first child or second or third, fourth children.
Yes.
I myself, I had 3 cesareans within 48 months, 3 C-sections. So it's interesting that I carried 3 children and didn't actually even experience the birth process. And so I met you and thought, wow, this amazing woman is supporting, and many of the women that you support want to have also, they're brave enough to do
Hmm.
home births in water, without drugs, without the epidurals and medication and all of that. So completely different experience than I had.
Hmm.
And I love hearing about the different the different experiences you go through, because everyone's birth experience is unique and
Hmm.
is different. And so again, you had 3 births yourself, natural births yourself. And so again, what inspired you specifically to want to step into supporting other women as a profession?
My experience had been so profound, and it had been source of my strength, that we really need to tap into who we are as a powerful woman to lead and guide our families and our children. And that at really vulnerable, fragile times was that bucket, that source. Um, Ironically, what we call, they say, like, what is your doula's toolbox? And I say it's really giving women access to their own internal toolbox and tools that they can use when they might be struggling and they want to remember their power. And it truly is not about what it looks like. We get so attached to the birth story, and that's because there's so much emotion and importance behind it, which is truly just our perspective. And what's so beautiful and refreshing is that your perspective was, I had a wonderful birth. And even though that they were cesareans, it's important that we share that perspective to other mothers, because especially right now we get so caught up in this social media, what things look like instead of what they feel like. And that's really based on our perspective of the experience. So my goal is to not give an outline that it's supposed to look a certain way. And of course it's wonderful and it appears all magical when you're in the water and the lights are twinkling and you're at home and you're breathing into it. But I've had moms where it looked like that. And afterwards, when we sat and we really spent some time in that fourth trimester integrating that whole magical experience that we had, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but she had said, she was like,
Yes.
holy shit, Jennifer, it might have looked like something, but it still felt like I was otherworldly, and it was profound, and it was the hardest thing that I've ever done. So it's really trying to be real with our mothers and integrate that experience into who you are as a woman and how powerful. And what's really beautiful is that there's such awareness right now. We're in a day and age where um, we it's cool to be doing all of this self actualization, and we search for these ways of learning and raising our vibration. And truly we're given this transcendental plant medicine and all of these experiences that we are now searching for, and childbirth is a primary given. Like, that is the holy grail of this profound experience in life that is so rich of discovering who you are, what you're capable of, all your karmic contracts and the souls coming in and out. And that was what I had experienced. And I had experienced it in a time when we didn't talk about these things, where I was just the crazy hippie mama that, was feeding my kids avocados and didn't want to put them on antibiotics, and all of the things that are now cool were not then. So I didn't have anybody to speak to about this transcendental, profound birth experiences that I'd had. And as I grew with my children, it became more and more evident that I was searching for these answers as to what had happened. Thus became my yoga practice and a meditation practice, and really just sitting with myself. And there was a question that my coaches many times had asked me, and it was, what is that one most empowering personal event that, and it was absolutely clear to me that it had always been childbirth. And just at a moment in my life where it was, my kids were growing up, and what is my sense of purpose? And I had been an elementary school teacher, and I had been a stay-at-home mom, wonderful privilege to do so, but still wanted to make an impact in my community and within my friends and my peers, and primarily, how do I make an impact on the next generation? And I saw it as, I'm going to be honest, I don't, after raising 3 kids, have the patience anymore. And the standards that I had, like super high
I get it.
standards for teachers. And love and light, I did not have that patience anymore. And I just thought to myself, what is the craziest thing that I could do? Like, women are going to let me be there and watch them give birth? It was like mind blowing. And I was just at a stage in my life where I was like, F it. I'm going for that seems really crazy and unobtainable. And that has been the most rewarding part about it. I'm just so deeply honored. Like, how crazy. Like, women allow me in to the most profound, personal events, physically, emotionally, spiritually, socially, relationships. Like, it just, you touch every topic. I'm also Scorpio, so like I don't do superficial. I go really deep, really fast. And it's just been very evident the way things have lined up and grown so quickly. And that this is absolutely my calling. There's something completely magical that happens in that realm, and I'm just addicted to it.
Yeah, and it is your calling. It absolutely
Yeah.
is your calling, and not just for the moms. And yes, it is a most sacred space and container and place to be. I was fortunate enough to see one birth and like I said, I didn't even having 3 cesareans and having the surgery for my 3 kids, I thought, wow, not only did I not experience that, but I also hadn't seen a birth, right? Didn't have it, I hadn't seen it. And so one of my younger sisters, I was fortunate enough that she allowed me to be there when my niece was born. She was born on 11/11/11, no less, in Colorado,
Yeah.
Allison. And my sister, it was her second daughter, and allowed me to be in the room with her and Allison's dad to see her give birth. And so that was amazing. That's the only birth I've actually seen, was my sister, my younger sister, giving birth. And so from that vantage, that view and that vantage point was really incredible to see the power that you're talking about. So amazing. And so you do this all the time, like regularly, and seeing miracles being born all the time. And so it absolutely is your purpose. I think what is important to note also about you as a leader is, I talk about how we are all energetic beings. My number one principle that I align to is that everything is energy. And so we are energetic beings. And so it's who you are being for women, who you are for me, who you are for your children, who you are for your partner, for your mother, your friends. You're just a leader, and you're a leader and you're a supporter and an incredible space holder. And I think that is so important. It's really who you are being for these women, that they feel so safe.
Thank you.
They feel safe. I trust you, and feel really safe and soothed and supported by you. And so that is, I see how you are, and so incredible at what you do. But it starts with who you're being, your actual being, and then and plays into what you do for a living to support these women. Jennifer, when you look at across the young women versus now more and more women are having children over 40, we're seeing women have children. What are the distinctions that you see in the younger moms versus women who've had careers first or waited to have children? Is there a
There's so first of all, everybody's so different. Just like I'm completely, my belief is that your soul did not need that birth experience to awaken you, to empower you, that you came already into this world with certain qualities that were going to be strong. They were going to be there either way. I really believe that every birth is perfect and exactly how it should be for what our soul is meant to learn in the process. So, with that said, that's the same belief system as to when women have their babies, whether they're meant to have them young so they can grow into it, or whether they have it when they're older so they can have a full experience of having the duality of being whoever they were before they stepped into that motherhood stage. What I do see is it is harder when you've been in your masculine and you have spent, let's say, your 20s and 30s, that time in your young adults, developing a career and establishing who you are and working outside the home, that takes on a very masculine role. And we are, as females, very feminine, hormonally and biologically. We are made to
Yes.
procreate and be mothers. Um, but we're multidimensional. So we're not only that, and of course there are many different elements and qualities, and gifts that we have to the universe. But when we're talking about then becoming pregnant and stepping into motherhood, there is no time in a woman's life that they're going to be more in their feminine. So what I see is that shift is when we are in that masculine, and that's become so much of our identity. It then becomes very hard to surrender that. And it really truly is this process of control is an illusion and surrendering to, um, biologically what's going to come over us, and we conceive, and then our body just takes over miraculously and creates this other being, this human. And I think we're very desensitized to how profound of a miracle it is each time. And it's really beautiful to be able to be present and integrate and feel that as your source of power. So I think that that's the biggest challenge that I see women in their 40s or later in life, is that they're, usually much more tapped into that masculine side of go, do, control. So the tendency in coaching them is they want to overachieve, they want to overplan it, they want to control the situation. Whereas when you're younger and you're not as experienced and you're more trusting and carefree, and you're, more in that feminine flow, it can be much easier. You're not as overthinking it and controlling it.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. It's interesting. So I was sort of in the middle. Got married right before my 30th birthday and got pregnant very easily. So my 3 kids were born within exactly 48 months, and what a toll. I mean, 3 cesareans in 48 months, and 50-pound weight gains, up, down, was just a lot. Breastfeeding, all of that stuff. It just was a lot. So 32, 33 and a half, and my youngest was born, right after I turned 36. And so I had that career. I, moved to New York, worked on Wall Street, wanted to have a certain level of success. Life has got this plan, right? Talk about control. Like I need to work and achieve and make money and do all of these things before I have children. And we just don't know. You just don't know what actually God's plan is for us. And so it was challenging identity, I think, for women, having a career first. And then I also when I talk about the trifecta as a coach, of leadership and personal development and coaching people into the possibility of having it all. What does it look like to have it all? Optimal health and generating your wealth and having quality relationships. It's super challenging for women to, quote unquote, have it all. I do believe we can have it all. We can't not necessarily have it all at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so when I had my first son, I stepping back from a career that I loved, where I was very successful, to be, moved to the burbs from New York City, blessed to be able to be at home with my son and experience that. And yet I struggled from leaving behind temporarily my identity, in my career. Well, where could I be if I were able to keep going and not, pausing to be there for my son and subsequently the next 2 kids. So it really is challenging for women, and more women are having children, I would say over 30, now, not in their 20s like our parents did. I was not an accident, but unplanned. My mother was 17 and a half, a senior in high school, when she got pregnant with me. And so 3rd in her class, top of her class. And by having me, that changed the trajectory of her life. And so her experience as a mother in her life in her 20s was very different than me building a career after, 4-year college education. before I embarked. The 30s was about, having my kids and going through that process. So I do see that women stepping into their power, their masculine energy in a way, and then needing to surrender and submit to what the body is going to do, like what we can control and we can't control. So my mother is, pregnant with me at 17, and my sister, I have other friends who've had children over 40. And wow, what a gap, right? In terms of experience there. Um, People will often ask me, they may have asked you this too before, having 3 kids. Tina, was it easier to go from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3? Many have 2 kids and then they're on the fence about having a third or not. And I said, well, actually, the toughest was 0 to 1.
Yeah, that because it's truly
0 to
maiden from
1.
motherhood. It's stepping into motherhood, and it's about that identity shift, and what we need to let go, surrender. And I really think it's a societal thing. And back to that feminine and masculine, we really need to acknowledge that it takes two to have a child. And it takes the father to conceive, and he plays a really big role. We know that genetically, his state of health and well-being is what contributes to the placenta. And of course, it's both of you, but energetically, it's also about both of you. So we need men. We need men to step into their masculine and be the provider and protector, so that women can surrender into trusting and feeling safe and being supported financially and emotionally and physically in a really vulnerable, fragile time by the men. And that's a really big thing that I talk about, because as we're acknowledging this shift that we're going through, um, globally, energetically, as a civilization, even we might say, we have to acknowledge the privilege that we have as mothers, that we are raising the future generation of men. Every mother that births a boy gets that privilege to help rebalance that and educate them. And I'm really seeing that dynamic shift, a bigger awareness, and the trends right now for women to um, honor again being a homemaker and see the value in creating a beautiful, organic, healthy life for their family as mothers, as wives, as women in their community, all of that. But it takes two. It's about the men as well stepping into supporting that role.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you touched on that. I have 2 boys, so it matters to me, how I step up as a leader, but them to see also that balance, the me stepping into my divine feminine, as well as working with that divine masculine, that balance
Yep.
for both of us. And so, yes, things are shifting. They certainly are different today. I love that you incorporate so much and you emphasize the importance of the partner in a woman's life, that the partner is very much involved. It's not you just working with mom, but it's you working with their partner in the process, during pregnancy. And what is the birth plan, about the father being a part of that as well. Very different from the way things were, 50 years ago.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're giving the power back, and I definitely, the way that my program is, I really conscientiously search for integrating that partner into the experience so that they're both empowered. We talk about from preconception, both of them physically getting the work up and making sure we don't want to just conceive, but we want to be conceiving these super babies. And then continuing on that thread of really talking to them about what is conscious parenting, what you're going to go through, going from couples to parents, because between you personally, that relationship is going to change so much. Socially, your friends are going to change. So, a lot of conversations, I'll sit down with a mom and she'll be like, my husband, he's still partying with his guy friends and they don't get it. They want to go out for beer, and how is he ever going to stay home with me, type of thing. So it's acknowledging all of those little differences that make a really big impact in
Life is going to change.
yeah, in our life overall. Exactly. It's a big part of it. And I think that that's a lot of what we do have in common is that we are both very strongly rooted in our divine feminine and knowing and acknowledging and really calling in the divine masculine and working with them and honoring them and a sense of this mutual divine respect that we have for each other and modeling that to our children and the impact that that makes and how perfect it is right now that we have children, boys and girls, and they're in this stage of young adults and we get to really just being us, they're learning. And that's what's so beautiful. And definitely I can say both of us pride ourselves on having phenomenal children.
And we both have been through divorce.
Yes.
So, there was
No shame.
Yeah, there was, marriage, but also went through a divorce. And so, blocks of years getting the kids through the teens and thriving into college.
Teens are fun. I always tell my parents, congratulations, you had the baby, you got through that. You will be calling me very soon when they're toddlers and you're in Target and the baby's having a temper tantrum on the floor. And then remember me again, we'll have a conversation when they're teens.
Bigger kids, bigger problems.
Yeah,
right?
like you thought that was hard.
People also sometimes don't feel ready, right? It's about a readiness feeling. Well, I'm not ready.
It's an illusion. We're never ready.
We're never ready.
No.
And so I've spoken before, all of life is a risk. Jim Rohn talks about all of life is a risk. And so the greatest risk of all is not taking a risk. And so if you are, it is the greatest gift and it is the life's greatest challenge and greatest reward. At least I'm speaking from my experience. I feel like I could have 3 careers more easily than three children, raising 3 children in the context of married or divorced, whether you're doing a conscious co-parenting. And there are a lot of challenges, of course, for many people. More than 50% of relationships end in divorce, unfortunately, with children and the impact on kids. And so I think people hesitate today. They wonder, they worry about that kind of thing. Well, what if it doesn't work out?
And that's actually why I really believe that the way that you give birth is a rite of passage and it paves the way for your experience into parenthood. And again, that's about couplehood. That's about both of you. So preparing them not just for physically, how is this baby going to come out of you, but preparing you for all the other elements of what it's going to feel like in what are the responsibilities. That's a huge part of it. How to come back together at the end of the day, the importance of having these conscious communication with each other about these important things. So, for example, a woman who's studying everything herself, childbirth education and whether or not to vaccinate and all these important decisions and stuff, the old paradigm used to be that the father would just let her make those decisions and he made certain decisions that, about maybe the finances because he was making the money and she got to make the decisions regarding the children. But that's a break in the two of you. That's not coming together. What happens is there's a break in your coupleship and your communication and when do you come together.
Yeah.
So when we start this new stage of life already fragmented where we're taking on separate roles, the masculine and the feminine roles, well, maybe the woman doesn't want to be a stay-at-home mom and she wants to still work a little bit and he needs to lean in a little bit deeper, and having these conversations of what do you truly need to thrive together as parents is really part of this heightened awareness in this generation that we have right now, where we're having these conversations and the men are being asked to step up in a different way, and women are communicating their needs a lot more. They're using their voices and they're saying, this is what I need. And hopefully with that awareness, starting them on that right path and coaching them and continuing to coach parents and give them that support, we can lower those rates of divorces because they're being seen and heard and taught essentially what we now understand we might need to thrive through a really difficult stage. honeymoon phase is easy. It's just about the two of you. And you know what? The situation, we talk about this all the time, is
Yes.
much easier for us in this stage of our lives when we're empty nesting. We can focus on a relationship
Open
again.
nesting.
Open nesting, yes. um, we can focus on relationships again, but that period of time when we're raising our children, we really have to have an awareness of not losing that relationship, of still conscientiously sitting down and factoring that into, you know what, maybe we can't do soccer because we absolutely need to have a date night where we sit down and we communicate.
Yes, and knowing that actually, while for the two individuals, mom and dad, the kids are the most important. The problem is that two end up often taking each other for granted.
Mhm.
And so that partnership, you together made these human beings, created these miracles, these human beings. And so being connected, and having that open communication and intimacy, the intimacy often gets lost. It changes also for couples
Yes.
after the first child comes. These are
I,
all
I,
concerns.
yeah.
Women today, in a world where the comparison is the thief of joy and social media, and women concerned about what's going to happen to my body, when I get pregnant, and will I get back in shape, and will my partner, my husband, still find me attractive? And again, the identity, giving up a career. There's so many concerns and considerations, and I think women put off for a lot of fear if they knew that things would be handled. And this goes back to the very beginning. So when you're coaching, you're meeting clients when they're pregnant. The woman is pregnant. I'm pregnant now, and they want that support throughout the process. And your program is just so unique and incredible, in the way that you support. And that's why I really wanted you to be speaking here today. But even before, so couples coming together, or let's say before you get pregnant.
Yes.
And it's not too late before the baby comes, but really getting aligned to your values.
Absolutely.
Often, Stephen Covey loves to talk about this in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that individuals get together based on often a character ethic, rather the personality ethic and not a character ethic. And so it's like, I like ice cream, you like ice cream, I like to play tennis, you like to play tennis. And people get together based on chemistry and a social interaction without really looking at having a vision. Each individuals have their own vision for their life, but aren't really looking at, well, what is our vision as a couple? What is our vision for the future about our having children and religion, and how will the kids be raised, and what will be our health standards? What do we want to provide and offer for them? And they're not having these conversations before going into committed relationships.
I'm really trying to have those, yeah. And that's where I feel like I have such a captive audience when they're pregnant and it's such a vulnerable state, and the slate is usually clean. They accept that they don't know what they don't know,
Yes.
and that they're going to have to apply themselves to learn. And that's a different spectrum for everybody of how deep you want to get into it and what your focuses are. But that relays into, well, what are your values? And I usually start with my clients doing something really basic, like just like what are your love languages, and how do you need to be supported, and how do you communicate with each other, and what does this look like for you? And then I have chapters on radical responsibility, where we're not in our victimhood, and you're going to have to do the work. And just because I know all the information, unfortunately, I'm not birthing this child, I'm not raising this child. So, how can we step into conscious parenting and having conversations? And a lot of my clients are really surprised because I am very spiritual, and I love the ceremonial work and the spirituality of it and everything. But I also have this balance where we're going to talk about, do you have life insurance? And here's a list of questions to call your insurance company. And I need both of you to sit down and really research and come together on certain hot topics. Like if you're having a boy, it's just not a free for all where the father says, I was circumcised, so we're just going to circumcise. I want you to think deeper into these conversations, and then providing them resources so they can do so. But there's also a balance between giving them resources and still leaving enough room for their growth in their own individual research and thoughts and conversations. And truly, that's where over the years I felt the need to really personally learn how to coach. Um, so that I can have these conversations and hold that space where it is much more coaching them so that it's self-directed, but I know where they're going and I have an outline for them where I can kind of check off, okay, I'm seeing their growth. I'm seeing step by step, they're ready to become parents, not just focused on ready to actually physically have this baby.
Exactly. As a doula, it's, it's thought of that it's just about helping them through the physical process of preparing, the breathing and all of the holistic health things to do and what to eat and types of exercise and prenatal yoga and meditations
And I love it and I
all
do it
that
all.
good stuff. But the integration with the partnership and the planning, because we don't think about these things. Generally speaking, there's so much that we just take for granted, and we're in, instead of being proactive, we're in reactive mode when we're thrown, oh, didn't think about that. And now it's like here and now. And so the greater, more prepared, I think your preparation is unique and it's very comprehensive. And so that's why I really wanted you to speak about it. And you've gone as far as you went to Ecuador, all the way to work with the indigenous women. Tell us a little bit briefly about that, your experience there and what you learned and could bring to the Western culture here in the U.S.
Yeah, so it's called Wombs of the World, the organization that I went with. And this particular trip that I wanted to do was in Ecuador, and it's in an indigenous community that actually the lead midwife is studying to become a lawyer as well because she feels the need so deeply to advocate for their rights. So it's no longer allowed outside the indigenous communities, even for home births. So that's where we see how strong they need to still hold on to these customs and this way of life. So it was a profound experience, and they are medicine women and shamans, and the way that the divine masculine is integrated with the divine feminine, that the women are the leaders in the community and the men are actually there a lot more to be the workers and supporters, and they very, very much honor the divine feminine. That was something that was absolutely magnificent and beautiful. And to see these women, such a simple ancient culture, but very powerful women. And that's based on because they are the magic keepers. And what are all of the different customs and ways of connecting with other women within the community and showing up for women in the community. So that was something that really appealed to me because I feel that myself very much that calling that it's not just about being there one on one and being there in the births, but it's about how do I show up in my community as a woman in my community to be that role model for other mothers and other women. So that's really an overview of energetically what it was. It was very sacred lands, and there was a lot of the ritual, the spirituality and the ritual, and learning the plant medicine and learning the different hands-on techniques. And it was just a very energetic space. And holding myself accountable that when I'm going to be doing this type of work with women, that I need to be a clearer vessel and I need to constantly be working on myself and be at that level to have that magic flow through me as well.
That's really important what you just said, because like I said, what's unique is what I said is the space that you're holding. So you need to be you understand you need to be a clean space. So whatever you have going on in your world, and just like you think about medical professionals, I interviewed Dr. Lauren Schwartz, a brain surgeon, on one of my earlier episodes, and fascinating. I mean, think about standing there as a brain
Yeah.
surgeon and needing to clear as you step forth anything that's going on in your world. And so in that moment when you are there going through the birth process with a woman in real time, like there's life that's about to come and a human is about to take their first breath, and you've seen many first breaths
And
taken.
as you know, one of the I profoundly go into integrating every experience as well, and they're not all love and light and beautiful, and sometimes
Of
there are
course.
very difficult
And
situations,
some
and
do end up in cesarean. I mean,
some
it's not
it from cesarean to babies unfortunately that might not make it, or things that arise medically
worse.
that are very difficult, and they're very difficult, and we do our best for every experience, and of course we want for every experience to be a beautiful, wonderful, non-traumatic, maternal led, all of those wonderful things. But this is life, and the one thing
Yes.
about birth, it's inherently unpredictable. When that
Like
cervix,
everything.
yeah, but
We think
especially
yeah.
we plan it, we visualize it, we do the meditations, and we listen to the music, and we do the squats, and we learn the breath work, and we understand the process. But ultimately we have to surrender, and sometimes there's karmic contracts, and there's life lessons, and shit fucking happens. And
Yes.
as I'm standing there witnessing other people, and as much as I would love to be a magical wizard and reconstitute what I'm seeing in front of my
Right.
eyes, I can't. It's not about me. And that's been the most humbling part of my job. It is truly not about me. I am only here as a birth keeper and a gatekeeper, and to witness and honor the moment and what uncovers and unveiling. And I really do feel myself in this in between realm and space, this altered state that we go to see and know that my mothers know that I'm there with them as they're in this altered, very vulnerable state. And it's also about those angels coming through and acknowledging how spiritual it is for a child, this soul, to merge with their physical body and be born into the world. And as much of that is such a huge importance as my why as to what I do, because I want to protect it, and I want every baby to come through and just be blessed with all of these
Of
angelic
course. Right.
codes. That's not the reality that we live in.
Of
So
course.
shit happens sometimes also, and it's what have we learned, and how can we support each other through real situations as well.
Um, that's amazing, and I love how you said how humbling it is. Like you said, magical wizard. I'd love to be a magical wizard.
Clear, cancel,
Yeah.
delete
My
sometimes.
so my last question to you is in looking at the fact that women are tending to have children later, and I say later like into their 30s. And what that means is then their mothers are then older. So, and we are in a world, a global world, where people are moving away from their parents. So people do not live near their families so much as we used to in generations before. If you're having children older, that means your parents, your mom, is your mom still around? Is she even in a position to help you if you even do live near her? These are new issues for a mom in terms of support system. So what would you say to women today in their 30s? They've been working for over a decade, out of school, they're in their 30s, looking for a partner and deciding whether or not to have children, because a lot of millennials now are not even sure in the world that we live in today. We've come from a pandemic and all of the challenges that we have even having children. Do you have any advice for them regarding choosing to, or what's the importance of or process going into having a child?
I think it goes back to a lot of what you do is figuring out what are your values, what's important, what do you want to, what's your legacy, what is your sense of purpose, and truly figuring that out for yourself, and what is true for you, and what has society brainwashed you or conditioned you to think is more important, but what is truly in your heart important for you. Um, And it is very complicated and multifactorial because you can be completely ready but not have the right partner. And again, that's a
Yeah.
huge part of it. That's 50% of it. It's not just finding anybody, but it's finding the right partner who can hold that space so you can step into your feminine again. So it's very multifactorial, but I think that there's also, it's very exciting because we're having these conversations younger. Like we are talking about our daughters that are young
Yes.
adults, and how do we educate them in choosing the right partner. We're also telling them get an education, and I'm so proud of you for being able to support yourself and be a strong independent young woman,
Have your own money. Don't
and
have to depend on a man.
not don't have to depend on a man. Know who you are, know your source of strength, and know what you're looking for in that equal
Yes.
counterpart.
Yes.
It's about that.
Unfortunately, I'm saying young women are getting mixed messages.
Well, we're here to tell them the
Yes.
truth and to set them right.
Exactly. Jennifer, thank you so much. There is so much more that we could get into on this subject matter. And so please tell everybody how they can find you. Birth of a Goddess,
Birth
right?
of a Goddess. Yep. On social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, my website as well is Birth of a Goddess. You can shoot me an email. It's J@Birth of a Goddess. Very open and
J
easy
at
to
Birth of
reach.
it's J at Birth of a Goddess at
No, J@birthofagoddess.com.
J at birthofagoddess.com.
Yeah.
Perfect. That is so amazing. And you have beautiful custom programs. I know because you do understand that every woman's process is unique. So there are things that are sort of universal and apply to all. And yet you work so beautifully with each woman individually to meet their own needs.
Thank you.
And that's super unique. And I love you so much. Thank
Love
you
you.
for being
Thank
here
you.
on Lead What You Live podcast with Tina Lizzio. Thank you for joining me today on Lead What You Live podcast with Tina Lizzio and my incredible guest, Jennifer Radnay, a holistic birth doula. You can reach me at YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. I will be coming to you with other incredible leaders, founders, executives, entrepreneurs in their field across many industries. So stay tuned.